So as Ridhima said, it's an afternoon session and we'll try our best to keep it meaningful and purposeful, and that's what this panel, Agetech panel, stands for. So I'll go back to last evening actually, where we all were there in this room, and our last session where Sarthak actually said that 145 million people are above the age of 60, right? And this age demographic is going to consistently grow at the rate of 40% between 2021 and 2031. And one of the most important things that he said, which I'm coming to rather than just as a repeat value, is the fact that there's a huge white space where not enough businesses are being built. So here we are actually with you, with some of our really esteemed panels and people on the panel today, with Salil, Raghu and Ashwini, who are using that white space and building startups which are meant for senior citizens. So let's get started with something personal as to what really triggered the idea. Was it just a purposeful project or a business proposition? Sorry, yes, here.
Thanks, Pragya. Thanks a lot, and thanks, Outlook. So, just to go back, you said, was it a business proposition?
Is it a purposeful proposition or a business idea? What is it?
So for me personally, GetSetUp was or is a combination of both. I'll go back into how we all kind of came together to think about it. Some of you know that I've been a banker for 30 odd years. And the part of banking that I used to do is go around the world, across the planet, talk about, and this I've been doing since 90s, that India is a young country, come and invest in India, and we see the results today in the markets the way they are. But while doing that, I grew 30 years into the career myself, so I added 30 years to my life. And on the other side, I saw my own parents very much. While I was starting my career, my father was retiring from the army. And he's not stopped a single day after that, after his retirement, in terms of being active, in terms of being curious and learning. He learned his harmonium at the age of 70. So I could see that this segment requires two things: to keep themselves busy, to keep themselves aware and abreast of what's happening, and of course, gainfully, in terms of not necessarily monetarily, but gainfully employed in some form or shape. And then it just, as a banker, you kind of read a lot of reports, you read, and then came across exactly what you just said, is that the white space is just open out there. Nobody's thinking about this space and as a business opportunity. And a few of us who are today GetSetUp founders were just kind of came together and said, let's fill this gap with the three pillars, which is in terms of financial well-being, health and wellness, and social connections. So the rest is kind of history. It's only a 4-year-old history now, but it's the rest of it is history for the future now.
So thank you, Ashwini. You literally gave us a trajectory from where you started to where you are now. So Raghu, if I could ask you, and Salil, you after that, responding to the same question, that what was the trigger, what prompted it, again, whether it was a purposeful project or a business idea?
Sure. So, obviously it's a combination of both, but it started with a personal experience. I used to be with the IT industry, with IBM and then Cisco in senior positions. And I struggled with providing care for my father, trying to balance the requirements of work and requirements as a son, as a caregiver. It started with not getting a holistic view of the elderly patient that my father was. And that was at the back of my mind. In fact, I came back to India. I was the first international assignee from IBM back in 1998, but when I came back to India, I came back because I was the only son. So I found that this holistic view was always missing, that not too many geriatricians and so on in India. But then when Cisco asked me to look at options outside of India, because I was already at the top position in India, So I thought of stepping back and see what I wanted to do in this area. And I'm not a medical professional. I can't solve the problem of holistic care of elderly patient. But as I was looking at this problem, I said, why not holistic care of elderly as an individual? Why stop at just the patient? And look at it from the point of sons and daughters like me, and make it simple for the sons and daughters to provide holistic care. So, and make corporates a stakeholder in this, because we all work for corporates. You know, agriculture was 60% of our GDP in 1960, but now it's 16. So more and more people will be engaged in services, in manufacturing, as employees. So why not help? So that's how it started. And the idea of Elders India was born to make sure that regardless of where your parents are, the employees can get access to quality health care, and make corporates a stakeholder. So along the way, we also found that there is more to it than just the healthcare needs of the parents or the elders. So elder care itself needed to be defined and needed to be seen in a lens which is different from just providing some attender or nurse to your parents. There is proactive needs of the elders on a day-to-day basis that needs to be taken care of. Emergency response, safety and security, social connect needs, all of these needed to be taken into account. But this is looking at it from a micro point, from an individual. To your question, from a business opportunity, you even talked about some numbers, 40% growth and so on. I realized that this is a much bigger problem, and that's the reason that gave me that confidence and the conviction that this needed to be solved. Let me give you some statistics to just add to what you just mentioned. Between 2022 and 2050, that's the middle of what we are, the overall population grows 18%. 80 plus population grows 279%. That's 15 times the average population growth. And 60 plus population grows 139%. So this is a problem here and now. This is not something in the future. And at the same time, increasingly you have single child families. So that means the increasing number of elderly would have to be supported by a decreasing number of children. So this cannot happen unless the entire stakeholders come in, and that's why corporates become a very, very important cog in the wheel, and corporates need to support the elderly. Every corporate has child care, right? Almost every, it's even mandated, but very few corporates have elder care, and this needs to be recognized, and for the last several years we are involved in making sure that this awareness level improves as well. And along the line, we also have a financial services venture which looks at the financial security needs of elderly. And just this week we launched another initiative to make sure that people can spend their time the way they want, and multiple options around spending their time, be it volunteering, be it monetizing their skills and time, be it learning new skills. All of these initiatives are also part of our Elders Talent Initiative.
Thank you, Raghu. Salil, let's hear from you.
First of all, I want to thank Nidhi to actually bring in Agetech onto a 40 after 40 platform, because everybody feels that 40 after 40 years are going to live, only finance matters. And I think it's great that Outlook realizes that it's not only finance, it's the overall wellness which comes into play, and that's where Agetech as an ecosystem is trying to make a difference. So I think hats off. Thank you for bringing us center stage. As far as my thought on aging goes, I have been part of banking for 30 years, ICICI Bank, smaller bank, cooperative banks. Everywhere I realize that banks want senior citizens to keep money with them. They give them 1% extra, but that's it. No separate service, no separate product which actually takes care of their physical and other needs. So I said there's something wrong over here, and in my financial services journey, I went through the entire gamut. The last place I was Jupiter, a neo bank, which was delivering using digital for catering to the millennials, which is the other end of the spectrum. And I said, if the millennials can be catered to separately, why can't digital be used to cater to the specific needs of seniors? And then COVID happened, and I saw my parents, 84 and 80, struggle with digital. And nothing could be done because they were not comfortable using digital. So I said, let's take baby steps, let's make it simple for seniors, and that's how Simplify was born. And that's how I said, my focus will stay on making digital simple so that digital can be the gateway for seniors and they can be independent, digitally independent. So that's the thought process. Yeah. And like the numbers which Raghu mentioned, I think it's a growing number. The seniors are just going to grow. By 2050, the number is projected to be 330 million, which is the population of United States. So the seniors in India are going to be equal to the population of United States. So it's a huge opportunity, and that's the white space you spoke about. And in that, one quick one, before I sort of let go the mic, the teenagers, everybody knows, right? Teenagers are the guys who have time but no money. And then there are teenagers who are seniors who have time and money both. So it makes a lot of business sense as well to go out and cater to this population.
No, thank you so much. And I think when I connect the dots, it's also about what is needed, the nuclear family growing, the need of the hour, like as Mr. Vedyanathan also said yesterday, that the nuclear family is growing. Children are mostly away. So it's not just about the population that needs the care, but also caregivers. So that brings me to the second question, which is, what are the products? And we can, since we are 16 minutes into the panel, we'll keep it like, what are the key solutions and services that one can look at and understand Agetech from that perspective, whether you're a caregiver, individual, collective, whichever ways from that spectrum. So if we could begin with Salil, if you could talk about solutions and services.
Yeah. So I guess like Raghu and Ashwini also mentioned, there are a lot of people in the Agetech picking up different pieces and trying to solve for family, trying to solve for social needs, financial needs. We have focused in Simplify to solve for the digital well-being in general. And within digital well-being, we are saying, let us be the platform which will provide access and the gateway to all other services as a complementary. So what we have done is we have tried to say, let's keep the phone clutter-free, let's make it simple, let everything that they want to access be upfront. Let's ensure that the children who need to be reached out in case of emergency, they are accessible right on the home screen. Apps get organized. In case seniors want to go out and order things out from the digital platforms, the digital platform offer the best prices invariably, but we don't want them to go out and download a new app just for that. So we are saying let them be using the platform that they're comfortable with, which is WhatsApp. So let WhatsApp be the go-to for them to order anything from outside as well. So keep it simple is the theme.
Absolutely. Ashwini, let's hear from you.
So I think I'll take the stat that Raghu just mentioned, that the number of children in the future will be less, younger population will be less. I'll also take half a statement of what I think Mr. Rao said earlier in the day was don't make your children your retirement plan, or I think it was Mr. Mohanty. So GetSetUp's belief is that learn from your own peers. Stay engaged in a peer-to-peer format, because the only people who will be there with you is your own peers. So our model is actually ensuring that getting everyone together to connect with making new friends, learning from each other, new skills, whether it is all the way from financial well-being, health, or just any other enrichment like singing, dancing, or whatever you want, hobbies that you may want to. And the third being is that with that connection, you kind of age healthily, age in place. So you don't have to be dependent on anybody. And the entire Agetech sector, Pragya, is actually quite wide, because every other part of the population gets segmented, from children to teenagers to, you may have words for like millennials, Gen Z, etc. But the entire older adult generation is just classified as one, but actually it is not, because the entire, like, we are catering to active aging all the way from 55 to end of life, as long as you're active or you want to remain active. But there are caretakers and caregivers within the senior segment also. A 55-year-old could be a caregiver at one stage, and at some stage of life, maybe the caretaker or would require care. So the entire segment is actually quite large. So each of us are actually solving for our own strength and competency, as well as there's enough of opportunities to collaborate together, like this very collaboration that's happening within Outlook. Like, you are addressing the entire thing, that it's not about finance, it's also about many other things along with finance, and that's what you guys have brought together. So it's a large space to solve for.
Raghu.
Yeah. So the needs of elders is quite complex. Now, if you talk about children, the needs of children, it's quite homogeneous. Somebody who's 8-year-old, across the board, you can probably know that these are the needs. If you have seen an 80-year-old person, you've seen an 80-year-old person. You cannot, generalize that. And as Ashwini was referring to, these are continuum of needs, right? You start with being active and independent, and slowly your support requirements may go up, and you might even be bedridden, right? So we need to be able to solve these different needs that occur as the elderly ages and as the support requirements changes. And therefore, this is much beyond any one player who can address one particular need, and even in that particular need across the countries, you would need multiple players. So but there are multiple stakeholders, right? There are stakeholders like corporates, stakeholders, sons and daughters, elders themselves, and multiple service providers. So this needs an ecosystem to develop to solve this problem. We cannot kid ourselves, and that's the issue that we are trying to solve. There are financial, emotional, social needs, of the elders that need to be catered to, and the caregivers would have to be mindful about all of that, and that needs to be supported. And many times the biggest issue, I'll tell you, is not the solution to all of these needs, but the awareness of all of these needs and what to do, and who we can approach. So that's the big problem that needs to be solved. And when they are active and independent, the biggest issue, let's say post-retirement, the first issue that you have, there is health, wealth, and time. Health and wealth depends on what you did in the previous decades. Everybody has enough time on their hands. What to do with the time is the biggest issue. And in terms of volunteering, all those things that I talked about. And so it needs a continuum of needs, and it needs an ecosystem to kind of really solve.
So definitely what our panelists are saying reinforces the need for Agetech, and there are enough and more reasons which I won't repeat as to why. That takes me to my next question, which is the future of Agetech, and where we are headed and what we would need so that the startup ecosystem within Agetech can take center stage and be integrated with the healthcare systems at large to cater to the increasing, whopping population that we will be faced with in that age group.
So let me take that. I think there are multiple things that need to be done. One is, I think the government has understood the need, and government has initiated a lot of initiatives. One good initiative in this space is ABHA, the health card, which has been introduced. So the integration of lot of the startups and platforms are going to be done. With that is going to be one big thing. One thing which the government needs to do needs to be introducing an act about digital accessibility. Because digital has become center stage. So just like we say literacy is important, digital literacy has equally been important, because everything can be accessed if you are digitally literate. So there needs to be an initiative from the government from a policy point of view to bring in Digital Accessibility Act. In US, there is a ADA, American Digital Accessibility Act, which ensures that it's not only the physical accessibility of stores, but also digital accessibility of websites and mobile apps, which everybody can access. So I think there's a need for government to look into this, and which in turn will help the age tech deliver its solutions. Because if that is made center stage, that's going to go a long way.
Raghu and Ashwini, anything you would like to add from your perspective?
So the biggest issue is one of awareness. So, we talked about single child families. Let's say if you have a single child, you are in a small town or a village, and that child gets a job. This is what is happening, in one of the cities. Then the parents have an option either to accompany the child to the city or stay where they are. Either way, there is a problem. And more people are also traveling into the cities. Therefore, the urban elderly population is growing at 3 times the rural elderly population. So the reason why this is important is the needs that would have been automatically provided for in a joint family setting in familiar environment would have to be explicitly provided for now. And if you ask the elders, tell me what your needs are, very unlikely that they themselves are in a position to articulate. Much less will be the understanding and articulation of the sons and daughters who have their own priorities. So the biggest issue is one of awareness, and this awareness thankfully is improving. He talked about the government just this year. A few months ago, Niti Aayog came out with a paper, and they talked about the need for an ecosystem to develop. And we have been in this journey for the last 6-7 years. Only now I see the awareness levels are going up. So this needs to be the first step. Understanding the problem is half the solution.
Ashwini.
I think I'll keep it short, but the age tech is just about begun. We saw yesterday's slide where there were so many of them which Sarthak showed, a lot of people solving needs. But I think one thing which is definitely, and since we have a gathering of a lot of BFSI over here and a lot of insurance speakers over here, and I'd like to say is that especially as you age, your health insurance needs technically go up. But I don't see anybody incentivizing you to maintain good health, both from physical as well as mental well-being perspective. When I say incentivizing in the sense is that I'm paying a premium of a mid-50s for my health insurance, but my biomarkers are much better than a 35-year-old. And that was one of my inspirations to actually get into the space. And some of us are runners over here, so we realize that what that means and that's something should be thought about because governments will do whatever they need to do at a government level. But within the private sector, within platforms like Outlook, which is been at the forefront of actually talking about the segment growing, is one solvable situation. A couple of others in terms of literacy of finance. We heard that, and I think the data is already told in the previous two sessions is that women will outlive men. What about just keeping financial well-being of women, creating enough awareness for them to just understand many basic things, from power of compounding to saving small amounts. The olden days they used to save on the side in cash for the rainy day, but cash is eaten up by inflation, we all know that. So some of that activity needs also to ensure that the aged of the nation also are healthy in every aspect. A healthy nation, healthy GDP, we all know how that at the macro level works.
Thank you. And the last one, and probably a 1 minute each, which reinforces your belief, your individual belief, that you are on the right track, and any anecdote, any personal story that fills your heart and says that yes, we did the right decision.
Let me go first here, and it's interesting. When I picked up this thing and said, let me go out and do, when I told you about my parents, 8480, I went out and met about 150 more people to understand, is that true across? And I realized I interviewed about people from the age group of 50 to 90. And at the end of it, I realized it's senior citizen is not a single persona. Within senior citizen, there are different persona. And from a digital point of view, I realized there are 4 personas. One is digital migrants or functional users who just use the phone for calling and communication. Second is a persona which is going and using it, the smartphone capability for entertainment. So Facebook, OTT, all of that. Then third are people, I'm calling them curious adapters, who have gone out and started using GPay, small transactions and using it for paying to kirana wala, bhaji wala and all those kind of things. So these three are the guys who are doing something but they can do much more and they need help. And of course the fourth are the power users. They do everything and everything is on digital. So what got reinforced when I looked at this is, there are these three segments which are 60% of the population that I interviewed, and there's certainly a need to help them. That's what reinforced.
So when we talk about Agetech, technology has to meet with services and needs on the ground, which needs some last mile intervention. So it needs to be a tech-enabled, ecosystem-driven solution. So let me just give you an example that kind of illustrates this. Somebody discovered Elders India, one of the enterprise employee, and there's a heart patient that needed to be transported from Bangalore to Delhi, and there's a BiPAP machine, oxygen cylinder and all that stuff. So the person cannot travel by air. So we had to, through our partner, engage someone to accompany that elderly patient. So from Bangalore to Delhi on a train, right? And somewhere along the way, during, I think in Secunderabad, the patient developed a problem. And they had to deboard and get hospitalized in Hyderabad, and somewhere someone else supported that particular admission, and then after 2-3 days discharged, and then they went to Delhi and they were safe. The point I'm trying to make is, technology is there to discover and help and connect the ecosystem, but on the ground there had to be some real support, and this patient was safely transported back to Delhi, and the entire family were very happy that this kind of thing happened. With the multiple incidences, somebody got stranded, an elderly patient in Kolkata, and they missed the connecting flight, and somebody has to accompany that elderly patient, elderly woman to a hotel and come back. There are multiple such incidences which kind of reinforces our belief that Agetech and the services on the ground using technology has to be integrated and an ecosystem can support.
Ashwini, the last word.
So it gave me a lot of time to think about the stories, but one which personally resonates, and I really love it every time it's been played in front of either clients or in pitches, etc., is the story of Leena. She used to come to our platform initially just to socially connect with people and meet people, and then she signed up for finance classes. Towards the end of 2023, she actually gave a quote to us and said, I'm really happy to come on GetSetUp to have learned basic finances that I could actually manage through the financial crisis in the family that she was dealing with, that I actually told everybody in the house to save even 50 rupees if they could. She used all of that and used the skills that she was learning on the platform and discovered the concept of, and the mutual fund guys will love it, discovered the concept of mutual funds and the SIP, and today she actually always thanks us that you guys taught me a lot of things about how to manage financial well-being. And other stories, just walk out after this session and there are 6 or 7 of our entrepreneurs who came onto the platform, got socially connected, learned skills about basic marketing, social media marketing, selling techniques, etc. And today they've been invited over here to have independent stalls to display their wares. So I think there's lots of such stories, but these just makes me feel that we're here for a long haul and its time is right, and it's makes us believe that there's lots still to be done.
Thank you so much. They are here. Please interact with them. So that was our time. Thank you once again.